So that's not an area that I would try to talk about. Before we address the people with a letter, email, text, or a change in policy, we should stop and consider these common barriers to communication. A lot of times when we communicate through these avenues, people misinterpret what it is we're trying to say. So if we do communicate in these avenues, we have to make sure our communication is clear, that everyone can understand it. If we have doubt that everyone may not be able to fully understand what it is we're saying in the letter or the email, we might want to do the meeting where we can actually speak and convey what it is that we need to say. A lot of times people don't like having meetings because they feel like meetings are a waste of time. Excuse me. They feel like meetings are a waste of time. Be quicker to send the email, quicker to send the text. But a lot of times people misinterpret what is being said. And then they don't ask questions. So they keep that interpretation instead of coming and getting clarity. The bottom line is communication. Bottom line, clear communication is the most important key to successful leadership. To be an effective leader, you must learn to be an effective communicator. The next area is poor qualities or traits as a leader. We recognize all of the good leadership qualities, but on the flip side of that are poor leadership qualities. Usually, they consist of the opposite of what's good. Being arrogant. An arrogant leader will do a great job of turning people off and disengaging them. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction and arrogance before failure. Unwilling to listen. A leader that does not listen to the view and opinion of others usually demotivates and isolates the people because they feel you know everything and don't want to listen. I believe we should always listen to someone's opinion or things that they have to offer. Sometimes someone may have an idea that's something we didn't think about. So sometimes it's good to listen to what people have to say. Also, when you won't listen, it makes people say, they ain't gonna listen to me, no way, there ain't no need in saying anything. But what ends up happening is we feel like they're not being heard, they rebel. I don't know if you've ever Micromanage. Do not hover over people to make sure they are working. Do not correct them the moment they say or do something wrong. Fear is not a way to inspire. Don't be a know-it-all. Listen to the ideas of your people and seriously consider them. Secrecy. Don't withhold things from your staff. When you hide things from your team, you show them you don't trust them. Being indecisive. Leaders make decisions. Delaying a decision or avoiding conflict due to inaction will weaken your entire team, even if the decisions you make are unpopular. And with being indecisive, I had a group of people for a while that always seemed to like to fight. They would pick at each other all the time, and it would be chaos in the room for a period of time. So when they would come to me, I would say to them, okay, I know you want me to handle this, but if I have to handle this, this goes to a whole completely different level. So you might want to go back out my office and handle it yourselves, because when I get involved, you're not going to like where it goes. In doing that, a lot of times they would handle their conflict themselves. But if they couldn't handle the conflict and they came to me, I couldn't be like, oh, I don't know what to tell you what to do. I don't know how to tell you how to handle that. Because then the conflicts would keep escalating. So I always would have to make sure I stayed on top of them. I mean, because we would have some petty stuff. I mean, people working together can be bad. I mean, I had a young lady come to me because she asked one of her coworkers for a cookie. And the young lady told her, you don't need the cookie. You don't need the cookie. And you can get what you get from that. But she said, you don't need the cookie. So the young lady comes to me and she's upset because her coworker won't give her a cookie. And I'm like, really? I'm like, really? I have to diffuse a fight over cookies? I was like, y'all need to handle that. I said, but if she don't want to give you the cookie, she don't want to give you the cookie. There's a snack machine, get your own cookies. Get your own cookies. Get your own cookies. Right. Exactly. Over a fight over cookies. You know, it's like, no. You know, it's when your people know that you're quick to handle things, they're less likely to bring you foolishness. But I had a group for a while that would bring some foolishness. If I told y'all some of the stories that I have about some of my crew, it got down to the point where before we moved out of the building that we're in, now hear this, the room that I was in, the people would act up so much. If something happened in the building, they automatically thought it was the people in that room. Y'all, I had to pray. I prayed hard in that room. I would throw oil in the morning. I'd be throwing oil. I'd be praying in that room because every time something happened, they thought it was from that room. So before we left, one of the rooms that we used to have caught on fire. So one of the guys that was in charge of the building came to me and he said, Kim, did your group set the building on fire? I said, no. I said, no, that wasn't my group. That was not my group. This time we are innocent. We are innocent. It wasn't us. That was somebody else. Well, it happened to be another part of our group. It wasn't in my area, but it was a group of people upstairs from us that worked for the same company. Their group set the building on fire. with a faulty fan. It was a fan plugged into the wall, and it was faulty. But when he came to me, and I said to my group later on, I said, you guys, you ought to be glad y'all are moving out of here, because everything that happened, they were starting to blame y'all. And most of them people are now gone. But we were still being blamed for crazy stuff that would happen in the office. That's how much wild stuff would happen. I'm like, Yahweh, I know this right here is my test. This is my test. Excuse me. Trying to be a friend, not a leader, and we talked about that last week. You should know your staff as people. You should understand their differences and recognize what inspires them and motivates them. You should respect them, and they should respect you. You should be approachable. Other examples of bad leadership: belittling and condescending communication, not empowering your staff to succeed, not admitting when you made a mistake, ignoring your staff, using threats, making your staff feel guilty if they don't do something extra. Have you ever had a boss or a person make you feel bad because you won't stay late, but they do? They're like, well, if I gotta stay late, why can't you stay late? You should stay late because I stay late and I do this and I do that. And they try to make you feel guilty because you're like, well, no, I'm going home. I've done my time, I'm going home. I've had that, to me, that's not good, because that makes your people become disgruntled because they feel like, well, why are you always expecting me to stay? Why am I the one that you feel needs to stay? Why am I the one you always target? That can make people feel a certain way about that. About, you always asking them why. I'm asking them to stay and no one else. Or, wanting people to stay longer. People have families, people have lives that, they want to go live after work. They don't want to be stuck into the evening, well into the evening doing work, unless it's something that is going to benefit them. Like, there were times when I first started actually working for a government contractor, there were times where I might go to work at 6 in the morning and not get off till 8 or 9 at night. And that was because we were writing proposals to get work. So at that point, well, I didn't mind that. It benefited me. Because as long as we were writing the proposals, work was coming in. If we were winning them, work was coming in. So I didn't mind doing that. They fed us. They made sure we were taken care of. But the benefit of it was I continued to have a job. But if that wasn't the case, I don't think I would have done it all the time. But the benefit was I was able to keep working. Using fear tactics to motivate your staff, always having to throw in your 2 cents to every idea your staff offers, doing things that are self-serving, lying to your staff, making examples of a staff member in front of others, not providing your staff the training to succeed, being callous, being unforgiving to the staff's mistakes, ignoring needed changes, not planning, not setting a clear vision, being a poor example of execution and accountability, but expecting others to execute, unwillingness to take risks, poor management of oneself, deceitful, impulsive, unable to take criticism, unethical business practices, disrespecting your staff, and overly negative or overly positive. Overly positive meaning ignoring bad signs and taking action because you are so positive and hopeful that things will improve. So that's saying that you're so positive that you don't deal with the negative because you just think it'll go away, pretty much. But it don't go away. It don't go away. Strive towards a mutual leadership style and be ready to learn the relevant leadership skills of reflective listening, talking, dialogue, delegation, negotiation, empathy, conflict, resolution, interpersonal relationship, and other valuable skills. We as leaders need to remember that we are always to remain upright before Yahweh and provide the best example we most possibly can in order to draw people to Yahweh and our ministries. We must remember that we are representatives of the kingdom of Yahweh. And that's all I have on leadership. Are there any comments or questions?
So, question is what do you do when you have people who's in rebellion, and you ask what's going on, and they give you little things of what's going on, and you change some things that is in their head. And then they still act the same way.
To me, they weren't completely honest with you in what it was that they're dealing with then. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? If you have changed some of the things that they've suggested, but they're still acting in rebellion, there's still something there that either they didn't tell you or they didn't tell you all of it. You know what I mean? They gave you, they gave you what they thought they should give you, but the real problem they didn't give you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's more to it. It's more to it. It's like they gave you the surface part, they gave you the easy part of it, but it wasn't the root of it. Do you know what I'm saying? They didn't give you the root of it, and that's why they still walk in the rebellion. Because they didn't give you the full thing for you to be able to work the entire thing. They gave you a portion of it. So pretty much what happened was you cut off the top, but there was still a root for that thing to still continue to grow.
So is that in them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they were going to come and talk to you, they needed to be, now this is my opinion, if they're going to come to you and talk to you, they need to be able to give you the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And not just tell you what it is they think you want to hear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, truth be told, I want to hear nothing. But
but you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yes.
They'll think, well, Apostle can handle this portion of it. I'll give him this portion, but I won't give him the root of it, the deeper thing.
Yeah.
So pretty much what happens is the top of it, the top layer is cut off, but it still can grow. And that's why they're not free, because there's still the root of it is still there.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we do with them?
Either you can give them another opportunity.
Again.
If they're in leadership, you're going to have to deal with it. If it's leadership, you're going to have to deal with it. And you may have to go back and say, well, you know, we had this discussion, but I'm noticing there's still an issue. Mm-hmm. And I need you to be more in detail, more forward with what it is you're feeling.
Okay. Get out!
Right. Honesty, yeah.
I just wanted to like kind of piggyback on what you were stating. You were stating that it's possible that they didn't give everything, that they may not have told you everything. It's possible that they told something, but now the issue is within them. They have told what, let's just say, this is the issue I had, this is what happened, you changed everything, but nothing has changed as far as their rebellion. Now the rebellion, probably that seed is sitting within that person because now they don't know how to switch over. And that's probably a seed of unforgiveness and things of the sort that they now have to deal with. Wow. That other
That's
thing has
true.
probably been dealt with on the other end. And then now that happens in relationships, marriage, everything. It's like, okay, she said I don't talk to her. She said I don't spend time with her. I'm spending time, I'm talking, and I still get the mug face when I get in the house.
Right.
Oh, so you gonna spend time with me today?
Right.
So
That's true.
so that seed needs to be, pretty much plucked up from the root within that person now, and now the onus is on them.
That's true.
So, and I'm just trying to figure out how to word this. How about people who aren't ready to be led?
Aren't ready to be led.
Yeah. And the fact that they're not ready to receive correction from somebody who is in a place to give correction.
My personal opinion is then I'd sit them in a position to continue to be taught. Because if you don't want to be led, then you still must need to be taught something.
Something. Right.
You still need to be taught.
Right.
So I would put them back in a position of being just sit and be taught until you can get to a point where your teacher.
So, clarity. This person is not in a leadership position, but maybe they feel like they are. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That was the clarity part.
Okay.
So, in them instances, how do you deal with a person who thinks they have more than they do?
There's a couple of ways you can handle it, depending on what it is that they are presenting to you. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. For instance, you work on the computer a lot, and someone comes back to you, and they're always wanting to give you this knowledge on the computer that they really don't have.
I got a way
So
I deal
you
with
set
that,
them
but
up
I
with
don't
a
know if it's
challenge.
right or not,
You set them up with a challenge to allow them to say, okay, you say, okay, because you know you always need help. Okay, here, brother or sister, help me with A, B, and C. Then when they can't help you with A, B, and C, that'll be your opportunity to say, okay, well, since we couldn't figure it out, why don't you go back and study that and then come back and let me know how to fix it? Give them a challenge. Mm-hmm. Give them a challenge. Because then that'll make them think, oh, well, maybe I wasn't as well versed in that as I thought. Mm-hmm. I'll go back and I'll figure that out. And the next time before they jump up, they'll think twice. Mm-hmm. Before they jump up, unless they're just strong in that area and feel that, they know a whole lot. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I'm not in that position now, and where I was and could have been in that position, I'm glad I'm not, because I would have broke some people physically. But I've dealt with people, and this kind of mirrors in the church too, where, they're strong in an area, but they're wrong in an area. They're strong and wrong in the same area. Mm-hmm. So you got to find a way to lead them, first letting them know that they're wrong, right? And then lead them to being right.
Yes.
And it was difficult because, this guy was in another area, and technically I wasn't his manager, but I was checking all his work. I'm giving appraisals on them, but I'm not your manager. So, you know, it was a long story there. But I say that to say, you know, you got that same kind of thing in the church. And, you know, Dad has dealt with it before. And, you know, I think that was the question he was trying to pose, you know, for everybody to think about is, you know, you got people that are strong-willed, but they're wrong-willed, right? And they take charge of stuff that they're wrong-willed in, right? And then as the leader, you got to figure out how to kind of turn them back around to go to the right place without like physically breaking them, right?
Right.
Which I'm still kind of, you know,
And
still
in
kind of learning that.
that goes with knowing your people.
True.
And knowing that, okay, well, you're really not strong there, but you know they want to do something. So you give them something that you see they're stronger in, and they can do pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
So-
I can relate to that because as the team lead in help desk when I was great at that. The people that I directly influenced were great. And when I left, you had somebody not so great and they all left, right?
Right.
But it was easy for me to do that career-wise. But, you know, church-wise, don't nobody want to hear all that. You know what I mean?
Well, also in the church there are things that you can give people, but you just have to make them realize it's of importance as well. Okay, say worship leading may not be your strong suit, but you can do things in the office.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Me though? No, I'm just saying.
But working in the office may be your strong suit. Well, there are things in the office that are important. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
So your ability to do office work is good. That's where we need you right now. Worship leading will put our stronger people in.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
understand
You're
that.
being honest with them.
Yeah, yeah. But,
Because you don't want to. Like I understand not
Yeah,
wanting to
you know
break
what I
their
mean?
spirit, but
I understand that definitely, and I guess it comes to, you know, me as a citizen knowing how to take that and not cry and leave. You know what I mean? That takes a stronger person to be able to take that from the past and like, look, I'm happy that you have the initiative to come up and do this, but you know, I think you'd be better served. I think your gift would be better used over here. Because you're terrible. No, I'm just saying.
I believe it's all in your wording, because I have had situations like that on the job where things have come up and it's like, oh my God, how am I going to handle that?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to handle that? You know, because if I don't say the right words, it's going to really hurt this person. But I have to give it to Yahweh. He has always given me a way
To say it right.
to say it the right way, and it never hurt the person. Actually, the person can see what it is I'm saying, and they grab hold of that, and they run with it.
Okay, we're going to start a prayer line after this.
Okay?
So we just lay hands on people and impart that, right? Just to make sure we good. That's it. I got you.
Well, talking about how to say things right, years ago, I used to work at a child care center, and there was an older woman there, and she had halitosis. Like literally, it was horrible. Like the kid, God forgive me, the kids would cry because she'd be taking them to the potty and talking to them, and they'd be like, and they'd be kicking, and because her breath smelled horrible, and everybody would talk about her. Nobody said anything. So I'm like, I gotta say something to this woman. You gotta be me, right? Had to be me, right? I'm like, I gotta say something to her. This is horrible. Like she must not know. The babies don't know how to tell her, lady, your breath stinks. It was horrible. So I'm like, how do I say something? Lord, how do I tell this lady that her breath stinks? And that's how the kids are acting up. So I just said, you know what? I just gotta say it. So I said, Miss, I don't know what her name was. Can I tell you something? I said, please don't take this the wrong way. I don't even really know how to say this. I said, but you know how the kids are kind of mean and they scream and they holler, they're kind of nasty sometimes. I said, it may be because your breath doesn't smell so well. Then I said, have you ever tried going, like getting deep scaling or something done? I said, because your breath doesn't smell very well. And I said, and I know kids and they can't communicate, they don't know what else to do. And I said, so I'm telling you, I noticed that your breath doesn't smell so great. And I don't know exactly what I said, it was years ago, but to me, she seemed like she received it well. I know when she left there, she ain't feel too good about herself. But how do you just not say? I had to say something. Like nobody was touching it. It was a subject nobody wanted to touch. Somebody has to touch it at some point. Somebody has to say something. You just can't let something skate along and everybody's like, oh my God, and complaining about it and nothing's ever done. How is this going to get fixed? Sometimes you just have to go in and say what you got to say. She wasn't there much longer after that. But it's like sometimes you just don't want to say something. Sometimes it has to take the very one. Sometimes it only takes one person to say something. But if nobody's ever told that they're doing something wrong or something's not right, they're never going to know.
Right.
So sometimes it might not feel good at the time, but you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
And nobody wants people talking to them if their breath ain't smelling good.
Right. And most people, it may hurt them in the beginning, but they appreciate you telling them and letting them know.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, most people will appreciate you letting them know, though. They will. It may hurt them, it may sting, but, after a while, they're like, well, you know what, I'm glad you let me know because I wasn't aware of that. You know what I mean? Yes, sir.
All right, so I had a situation on my job that kind of had me not wanting to speak to these two individuals again because of the way that they responded to something that I was doing. Okay, those who know me know that I figure stuff out when I'm working or doing something, doing a task. I make it easy, not only for me, but for everybody that I'm working with. Try and make it easy. So it was a case where we were rolling out some thick wire, about this thick. They were 100 feet long, and they had to be connected together to make them an extra 100 feet long. So it was like 200 feet of wire, right? And they were coiled up. So we had to stretch them out, right? So I was like, well, let me stretch them out, then connect them where they land at, and then stretch them all the way out. The guy I was working with wanted to connect them first while they were in the coil and then lay them out. I said, why do you want to do that way? Well, let's just lay it out. When it gets to where it goes, connect them and finish laying them out. No, I don't want to do it that way. We do it this way. Why are you taking it all the way over there when you can just put the connector here? He got all pissed off and all mad and walked away. I'm like, what difference does it make? Because if you connect it here, you still got to stretch it out. He felt what?
He felt dumb.
You felt dumb.
Yeah.
Right. So he walked away, and I did it the way that I wanted to do it. So reverse, another person, now the wires are getting rolled up, right? And the wires are on a truss. They go up about 35 feet up in the air, and it's like a bunch of them. They all hang down like 10 wires. So I started coiling each wire and making a coil for itself. Like I had separate coils on the ground so that when the truss comes down, you can coil the cord as it comes down. So when the truss was coming down, the guy bringing the truss down, coming down, and I was like, hold up, let me get the coils. Let me start wrapping the coils as the truss come down. No, we don't need to do all that. We don't need to do that. Just. I was like, well, I was just trying to. He said, you always. Then he said something to somebody else, and he says he always He always doing something different than the way that it's supposed to be done, and I'm like, I'm just trying to make it simple. So anyway, he let the truss in with all of the wire landed in a big bunch on top of the cable. So when you had to grab a wire, you had to take one wire and you had to pull it and stretch it all the way out and then recoil it. And so how do I react to these people when they think that I'm doing something stupid, when I know that the way that I'm doing it is the correct way, the faster way, the easy way?
Teach them.
They don't. That's what I was trying to do.
Keep doing it your way. Eventually they're going to see, and then you say, let me show you what I'm doing. Let me show you what I'm doing.
You know, so that, you know, I was like at the point where I wanted to just shut down and not say nothing to him, because you're trying to make me look bad when you're the one that's not receiving how the job should be done correctly.
I would tell them, since they seem to have a whole lot to say, let me show you exactly what it is I'm doing so you'll understand it. And give them that option. Either they want to do it or they don't. But you know what I'm saying? Don't take it on as a burden to you of them thinking that you're doing it wrong. You know what I'm saying? Tell them, if you want to see what I'm doing, I'll show you what I'm doing, and you can see that it's easier than the way you're trying to do it. And it's more efficient.
Right.
For later on, I don't know if you got to use these coils again, but you know what I'm saying? Instead of having them in a heap, it's easier to take it from this raveled up state and pull it out than trying to drag it out of a heap.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I would just offer to show them. And as many times as you got to offer it. You know what I'm saying? As long as they keep talking, I'll show you. Just let me know when you want me to show you. I'll show you. Just let me know. I'll show you. Just let me know when you want me to show you. And eventually they may take you up on it. Or they may not. But you know what I'm saying? Don't make you feel some sort of way.
It's because I'm black. That's what it is.
Should I let them know we streaming? Or so, an example of this. So, when I worked in the help desk at the job I'm at now, it was like going into a cave, right? They still trying to spark fire with rocks. Like, it was that bad. So it was so inefficient, so bad, right? And I went to management. I was like, look, I can't believe, some nicer words, I can't believe you still doing this. Like, this was so, 15 years ago. So I can do some things to speed this up, because, the workload we have and the way that you're doing it is that you would never catch up. That's why you have a backlog of 400 tickets, right? So, I could show you some things. They were like, oh, nah, that's okay. I was like, look, well, all right, fine, click. So what I did is I just did it, right? I did what I do, and to show that I can speed up, I can make things more efficient, I did it. And the people around me, I was like, look, there's no way we're going to get done this ticket load. And I'm the new guy, right? There's no way we're going to get done this ticket load the way we're doing this now. So I got an idea. Let's just try this. And I'll show you what to do. The people around me. Because, right, well, this was AMR. This was the American team. Let's try it this way. Try it for 2 weeks. If it don't work, we'll keep doing what we're doing. So I did that, and management couldn't comprehend what I was doing when I told them, but they could comprehend the numbers after I showed them. So at some point, you got to say, it makes my job more efficient if I do it the way I know how to do it. You might not understand what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it, and then you see how much faster it is while I'm doing it. So in some cases, I'm not saying defy management. I'm saying show management a better way. And let me clarify that for the streamers. I ain't saying go to your church and do it a different way. You know what I mean? I ain't saying that. But I'm saying sometimes if you're set in your ways and you know a thing the way you know a thing, it might be hard for you to see a new way to do something. So if you can show results in your natural job, if you can show results by doing it, And it don't have to be my way or no way. I say, look, I'm just want to show you that this works. I'm gonna try it for a couple of weeks, and you tell me if you see improvements. Right, and if that works, I can show another couple of people. But sometimes in that situation, it's better to do it the way you know how to do it, and you know it'll be done faster. So it's just a suggestion for that. You don't have to flip out and be all mad at them. Just do it, and then they'll see how much better it is. Show by example. You're right. What's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, my answer was to Pop, or I've experienced something similar to that. I had a lot of skeletons in my closet concerning leadership. And what happened to me was the first time I went from house to house, I wasn't honest with my leader, because what happened, one, I felt like he should have already known because he was on the wall. So I didn't know how to submit myself to him and be submissive and tell him what happened. And because his health was declining, I didn't want to tell him. I felt like it would hurt him if I told him the truth. So that I didn't want, and then it was my intent not to destroy his house. So because I didn't want to destroy his house, I didn't really want to voice what happened, but in my immature state, I didn't understand by not speaking what I seen, I did destroy your house. But it took me some growing in some places to get to figure that out with leadership. So sometimes it's really not so. It is a miscommunication, but sometimes the sheep doesn't know how to go to say, Sister so-and-so hurt me. And you should have been, and sometimes I felt like, well, he should have known that the sheep was biting. I shouldn't have to tell you, because if you're a leader and you're in certain places, we kind of look for you to know what's going on in our immature state. We look for you to be in every place, in every secret place, not realizing that you are not the Most High. You are just, you're a man who sits up higher than us, but we kind of look at it in our immature status because we aren't leadership. But it isn't until you start to grow. Now, the second go-round, I made my peace sort of. Third go-round in another place, because it was a bumpy road to get to maturity. When I got to the third place, by the time I left this leader, I was able to tell her all that was in my heart in a tactful manner. Not to hurt her and touch her anointing, but I let her know that what you did to me wasn't right. But it took me 3 tries to get to that place. I could honestly tell my leader how I felt within respect, and respecting and leaving them in their authoritative place, because I didn't put them there. So I wasn't to take them down. So sometimes it's not you, and you can go to them. But when you find, from my place, when my leader came to me, he said, tell me what happened. I didn't want to hurt him. And I didn't realize, now I see, me not being honest hurt him. But I felt like I will always do you a favor, my way. So I was doing him a favor by not telling him, not realizing that in my immature status now, I'm becoming dark within myself because I'm not telling the truth. So I had to exercise that out 3 houses later to finally get together to go back and mend what was broken and say what happened to me. But it was a place that I had to mature in. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes he could have, if he really wanted to pinpoint it, he could have pinpointed it. So, sometimes it might not be the leader, or it might be the sheep. And sometimes if you go to them once, you might have to go. It just depends on how valuable the sheep is. Maybe they need to go out amongst the pasture and learn some other things, and then they'll come back, as they say, with their tail between their legs, but sheep don't have tails, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's the old saying that they used to talk about the dogs. They go out, they come back with their tail wagging between their legs. They're sorry then. So, it's hard to tell. It depends on really what's going on with the sheep and what the pattern is. If this is something that happens every so often, then hey, you still got some maturing to do. But if it's something out of the clear blue, and this person has been loyal, 9 times out of 10, something within the vineyard has hurt them. And it's really, hats off to leadership. That's all. I'm just saying.
And that's true, what Prophetess is saying, because being in a position of leadership, a lot of times people will talk to me about things. And one thing that I will tell the person is, you have to examine where you are and if you're ready to deal with it. But you can't hold the apostle or the pastor, the leadership, accountable for it if you're not ready to deal with it, and then you can't be rebellious in it. You have to examine yourself and where you are in that thing. Because a lot of times we're stuck ourselves, and because we don't know how to move forward yet. As Prophetess was saying, we don't know how to move forward. We actually take it out on everybody around us, not just leadership. Eventually, it ends up coming out on everybody. We start biting everybody. And then everybody's getting bites. And then that thing is just growing and growing and growing. And the pastor's looking at it like, why is this? What is this? Sister got bit over there last week. The sister got bit over here. But we don't realize that we're the one that's causing it to fester and to grow. We hear here a lot of times to examine ourselves. And examining ourselves is the hardest thing. But I have always believed that we cannot heal in anything if we aren't honest with ourselves. If we can't admit it, we can't heal from it. Because you can't heal from something that you don't think is there. You can't heal something that you don't think is there. So if I can't admit that I have started sowing seeds of discord in the house, if I can't admit that, I can't correct it until I can admit it. Because that takes me sitting down and saying, you know what, I did start that fight with Celine because I saw her looking at the sister and giving eye contact, and I did start that fight with her because I felt I had the right, knowing I didn't. Knowing I didn't. If I wanted to talk to her, I should have talked to her, but not start a fight, not start an issue, or not go around the assembly saying things to other people and then have them start looking at Celine in a certain way. We really have to examine ourselves in a lot of areas, because it's not just leadership that has to walk in character, integrity, communication, and all these things that I've talked about, but we as the sheep should also walk in those same lines. It's a requirement of us all, really. At the end of the day, it's a requirement of us all. Yes. Yes. Any more comments, questions? If not, we will close out. Good night, streamers. Thank you for watching. Yahweh, we thank you for today.